Hey everybody, welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John, that is Lacey, and we're here to talk to you about Star Wars as we always do. But this time, we have a very special interview as we're going to be talking to Steve Sansweet and Ann Neumann from Rancho Obi-Wan. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are like, Rancho Obi-Wan, yeah! But for those of you who don't know, Rancho Obi-Wan is the largest Star Wars collectible museum in the world, broke all the Guinness Book of World Records, and they are going to join us in just a few minutes to talk about their upcoming fundraiser that is going to preserve and continue the future of Rancho Obi-Wan. So you're going to get all that information in a bit, but just keep that link in mind, ranchoobiwan.org, and we'll get to all those details in just a bit. Lacey, are you ready to, because you're like a collectible, a bigger collectible person than I am.
I'm trying to think of a comparison right now of like who I'm speaking to as like the collector of all collectors. Like, the collector.
Yeah.
You know, like they make jokes in movies like, oh, he's the collector. Like,
yeah,
Steve is literally the person that owns the biggest Star Wars collection. It's Guinness World Record. It's epic. It's on my bucket list of things as a Star Wars fan that I definitely want to do. So I really hope we get to chat about like maybe some of the crazy stuff in his collection, like how much stuff does he have? How does it work? Like,
right.
I just look forward to getting into those details as someone like myself who does collect. It's just interesting to see how people's love for Star Wars translates into very specific things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely connect with this aspect of fandom.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm obsessed with the preservation of things. And like the preservation of the facts of the history of things. So I want to ask him about that. Like there's so many things to ask them about. So you're probably like, well, just get to it already, because we listen to you two all the time. And we shall. So let's get to our interview. Let's bring in Steve Sansweet and Ann Neumann from Rancho Obi-Wan. And let's talk about this fundraiser and Star Wars collecting. All right, TRB friends, we are honored to be joined by Steve Sansweet and Ann Neumann from Rancho Obi-Wan. So first of all, Ann and Steve, welcome to the Resistance broadcast. Thank you so much for taking the time. We look forward to nerding out with you about Star Wars collectibles and the legacy that you have built with Rancho Obi-Wan and your fundraiser that's coming up. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you both. So Rancho Obi-Wan has been around since 2011, and it was a place where my collection was stored, and we turned it into a nonprofit museum, and we've had thousands of guests over the years. And we do tours of the collection that take 2 to 3 hours. They're all about the stories behind the collectibles and how they were acquired and how they fit into the broader Star Wars legacy. And we're about to have a fundraiser. We haven't had one. We used to have them annually. We haven't had one since 2018. And it provides the working capital for the operations at Rancho Obi-Wan.
Yes, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So all contributions and donations are tax deductible to you, and all proceeds, like Steve said, go to the operations, insurance, utilities, all the good stuff that you need to have if you're protecting a collection of how many pieces?
Only
what
about,
are we saying this week?
400,000 to 500,000.
What? Okay. I thought you were going to say like 47,000, and that was going to be a lot.
And came here 18 years ago for, she thought, maximum of 6 months.
Sure.
And she was going to inventory the entire collection. And the inventory's gotten up to about 147,000 items. And there have been 1 or 2 things that have intervened in the last 18 years.
Yeah. Keep getting sidetracked with
that's a big rancho you got there.
Yes.
So yeah, between the museum and our off-site storage, we've got about 18,000 square feet.
Oh my gosh. So for our audience who may be in California, where are you located in California?
We're about an hour north. We're about an hour north of San Francisco, an hour drive north of San Francisco in Petaluma, California. And all the details on how to book tours and details about what we're coming up with as far as our fundraiser are on RanchoObi-Wan.org. Lots of videos and past stories and things of that nature too.
And if you're planning on coming to Petaluma or San Francisco, please know that we sell out about 6 to 8 to 10 weeks in advance. I think we're sold out through November right now. That's so awesome. We're planning for December. So just plan in advance.
Yeah. So these are guided tours led by a docent. And as I said, they take about 2 to 3 hours. And in the summer, because we get so many visitors, we usually have 2 tours on Saturdays. As the weather cools off and people get back to school and back to work, then it's mainly 1 tour on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
How many people are on one tour?
We try to limit it to 12 people so everybody gets a chance to see everything and hear the docent without any problem.
Nice. Wow, that's great. Yeah, and speaking of the fundraiser, obviously there is a live event happening in Seattle. Driving up, flying up, what's the trip for you guys?
Well, I'm sticking Steve on a plane from Petaluma. I'm gonna take 2 days to drive up. Yes.
Oh, nice.
And has to bring up some of the auction items and some of the new merchandise that we're going to be putting on sale for the first time up there.
Wow.
And it's very exciting. The countdown. It's our first time of doing something off-site.
Yeah.
And we picked the MoPop, the Museum of Popular Culture, which started out as a music museum because Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, was really into Jimi Hendrix and collected guitars and other musical instruments. And then he loved science fiction too. So he started buying props and items from famous science fiction movies. And the museum then became more than just the EMP, the music part of it. It became the MoPop.
Wow. Yes. So if you've never been there, guitars are a very large part of the Museum of Pop Culture. They have an enormous 2-story tall, like a tornado of guitars. Wow. And so keeping with that theme, we are actually bringing an exhibit of Star Wars guitars, both
wow,
and licensed.
Oh my God. I got a couple of guitars back there. So I mean, that hits me right here.
Star Wars guitars?
No, just guitars. So maybe I send one to you, Steve, and you make it a Star Wars guitar. But I do want to ask you before we get to the details on the fundraiser. Like, Steve, how did this start? So were you an avid collector on personally, or was it something that's just sort of the snowball rolled down the mountain and just became this big thing? Like, how did it begin? How did it start?
That's a good description. I grew up reading science fiction, and the space age was happening too in the 60s and 70s. And I went to some toy shows and saw these incredible battery operated robots from Japan that had passed me by in the 60s and 70s, and thought, wow, this is really cool collectibles and space toys, rockets and Apollo capsules that did all these great.
The chest would open up and they would like shoot sparks out, and they
cool.
Their eyes would light up. These were really significant pieces if you collect those kinds of things. And in Japan, they would use tin cans. They would take them apart and then make some of the robots out of the tin cans.
So the first Japanese robots were made out of discarded cans that were used by the occupation forces in the 40s.
Holy cow!
After World War II.
Wow.
So I've sold almost all of the collection. I still have that very first Atomic Robot Man.
Oh my gosh.
It was a spectacular collection. Steve also collected other space-related genres, and I'm sure your audience can forgive him for having one of the most amazing Star Trek collections.
So I lent about 40 items.
We're all friends here. Star Trek.
We're all friends. We love Star Trek. We love all things. So in 1990, the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington was doing a Star Trek exhibit, and they connected with me, and I lent them 40 pieces of Star Trek memorabilia.
Wow.
And as a result of that, and the curator getting to know me and seeing my Star Wars stuff in Los Angeles, where I then lived, we eventually introduced her to people at Lucasfilm, and that started the Magic of Myth, which became a book and an exhibit that went around the world for years for Star Wars.
Well, you also collect ET.
I had the world's largest ET collection. I regret that I found out I had the world's only ET collection.
That's one way to make a record. Well, so is there a Rancho Sulu? Is there a like a separate shop?
All of that's gone to feed my Star Wars passion.
All right.
I saw Star Wars with a bunch. I worked for the Wall Street Journal for 26 years. I was bureau chief in Los Angeles for 9 years. And I was invited along with all my colleagues to see a screening of Star Wars 10 days before it opened, before all the hype started, on the back lot of 20th Century Fox. And like everybody else in the audience, we looked up to the ceiling to see where that darn Star Destroyer was coming from and was hooked. And I went up to the head of PR after the public relations after the screening and said, "Could I have my advanced screening ticket back?" And that became one of the first objects in the collection.
Do you still have it?
Oh, I throw nothing Star Wars away.
Okay.
I haven't for 47 years.
We probably got maybe 300 banker boxes of ephemera. So a ticket would be considered something ephemeral, like you would get into your event and then throw the ticket away.
Right.
But no, we do not throw anything away.
We got all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I kept my stubs from when I saw the special edition for the first time in theaters. And, you know, that was a big deal for me, but I tried to laminate them myself with clear tape and stuff like that, you know. But I get that. Now, we have a bunch of other nerdy questions about this stuff, but I do want to make sure we get the details out to our audience for the fundraiser. So it is a live event on Saturday, October 5th, as you said, at the Museum of Pop Culture, and that's at 325 Fifth Avenue North in Seattle, Washington. So if you're in that area, Pacific Northwest, get your tickets, still available at ranchoobiwan.org/fundraiser2024.
Such a cool poster, by the way, with the Millennium Falcon on the guitar. Oh, love it.
Kurt Hanks, who is part of the local Seattle Star Wars group there.
And we'll be giving that away at the event.
Oh, no, they don't know that.
Oh, I just gave out some information.
We can edit this. We're not live, so
we can edit it. No worries.
You could totally keep that in because it's kind of
exclusive reveal here. Posters.
We waited for the Resistance broadcast to reveal all.
Yeah.
Honored.
No, it is so cool. It's such a cool poster. I love the colors too, the green and the blue. It's really nice.
It's amazing. And people, just so people know, if you can't make it to the event, say you're in Connecticut and you're not able to go this time, they can go to ranchoobiwan.org/fundraiser2024/donate, and you accept donates of any sizes, correct? So they can go support that way as well online.
Yes, and also there's a tab there called Patronage, and if you there's several levels, but at the minimum of $250, you can become an absentee bidder, which means then you get the privilege of also bidding on the items, which only in-person guests can bid on. But we do require that minimum $250 donation in order to get that privilege.
So we've got all kinds of wonderful stuff in the auction, including some amazing experiences, one of which is going to Skywalker Ranch, to Skywalker Vineyards, and having a tasting of Skywalker wines, along with a gift backpack that's filled with Skywalker wine goodies and a bottle of their wonderful rosé. We have a Boba Fett Fernandez Japanese guitar, and with it comes a lesson, an hour Zoom lesson from
Brit Lightning of Vixen.
All right. Very cool. Wow.
Lots of guitar themes.
Now you're auctioning off items, like, are you allowed to reveal the items that you're auctioning off yet, or is that something that's still under wraps?
They are in a tab called auction on the website, and you can see them all.
Lots of t-shirts. There's a Rise of Skywalker crew gift set. Yeah, really, really nice stuff. That guitar is awesome.
Any items specifically that you think are going to be the ones that everyone goes for, that people need to like say, like, to let our audience know, like, if you're going for this one, you better go big?
Everything.
There's some very limited edition posters from some of our favorite artists. Mark Ratz, an Australian artist who's done posters for Lucasfilm in Australia. A custom crocheted blanket by a Canadian, Charmaine Cuddy, who has done blankets for some of our past fundraisers. And this one is, you pick the Star Wars character, and she does this amazing job. There's a photo on the auction page of the blanket that she made for my recent birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
By a bunch of Seattle collectors, which coincidentally is why we're doing it in Seattle, because two of our board of directors live in Seattle and have their own amazing collections. Gus Lopez, who's been a director since the beginning and is vice president of Rancho Obi-Wan, probably has the best prop and costume Star Wars collection, as well as prototype toys. And Lisa Stevens and her husband, Vic Wirtz, who have an amazing collection of art and ephemera related to the production of these toys and prototypes, and just amazing stuff.
And I think there's one ticket left each for a tour of their collections as well, and those tickets are on our website.
Do you ever trade things like, hey, I'll give you a Salacious Crumb if you give me a Jabba?
We have traded things in the past.
All right.
So, yeah, that's still possible. Yeah. I've got some goodies.
Trading is always fun.
Yeah, trading is fun.
Well, you have I saw you said you had the Moo individual milks.
Yes, the Star Wars blue milk. We have the people who did that actually did cartons for schools, 2 different cartons, and I've got flats. So I've got them for Gus, who collects food product items, and my other friend, Duncan Jenkins, who's also a collector and has an amazing collection in Liberty, Missouri.
Wow. So people all over at this point, and I'm sure people contact you all the time, like, to donate items. Do you want people to contact you for that? Or is the 18,000 square feet just like the walls are buckling at this point?
We do have a space problem, that is for sure. So it depends. There's a contact form, and you can send me like what you got. And a lot of the times we'll use the items to give away to kids on the tours. We'll give them to the school tours.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if we have them already, they make really great giveaways. If we don't have them, we'll add them to the collection. And sometimes we keep multiple pieces in the collection in case we want to send one out on a traveling exhibit and keep it here as well. So there is a need for some things. Some things we may not be able to take, but just contact us on the website and we'll chat about it.
That's awesome.
Because I'm a collector myself. I've been collecting for a while. I've been a Star Wars fan since 2nd grade. So I'm curious, as a collector myself, what is something that was, to this day, something that gave you that immediate, like, yes, this is the best thing I've ever collected. This is awesome. I can't believe I got this. And then on the other side of that, what's something that got away from you that you were like, you missed out, they gave it to someone else, they sold it to someone, they were like,
white whale.
The chasing, the white whale, which mine was the AT-AT behind me for a long time, is like, I was looking for that, and then someone so kindly sent it to me. But still, my new white whale is the Hasbro Kylo Ren electronic helmet that they had during The Force Awakens that everybody is always looking for. So like, that's the one. But what items fall into those categories for you?
Well, I guess my most prized item is something that really connects me to Lucasfilm in the very beginning of fan relations, which they have really honored since the beginning, since before Star Wars came out. And that is a canvas banner that was hand-painted. The Star Wars logo was hand-painted by Joe Johnston, who was the art director of ILM and went on to become a world famous movie director.
John loves Joe Johnston.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's great. And the art on it is cut out from a cast and crew T-shirt, Ralph McQuarrie art of Luke Starkiller.
Oh, wow.
Man.
The piece that got away from me. Lucasfilm offered us, if we could find space for it and afford to move it here, the cantina they built for one of the celebration events for where they had the StarWars.com stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing piece. And we tried and tried our best. Now, how can we squeeze this in? Where could we put this? What could we build for it?
Right.
We were really limited on expansion here by the county. And but luckily our friends Lisa and Vic got it. They were building a 10,000 square foot addition, a barn. Every Star Wars collector needs a barn. I'll tell you that.
I could use one, I'll tell you that much.
There were 20,000 hens in these hen houses up until the early 1970s, the neighbors tell me. And when I was looking to buy something, when I was hired by Lucasfilm and came up to the Petaluma area, because it was a half hour from Skywalker Ranch, and I saw this property, kept passing by this property, which wasn't on the market at the time. And I saw these giant buildings and I thought, boy, I bet that has a lot of space in it. And we ended up at Rancho Obi-Wan.
And we still have chickens, and chickens are part of the tour. And there's actually a lot of chicken items in the collection, weirdly enough.
Do you have any dark side users named Kylo Hen?
That's
don't laugh at that.
That's wonderful. That's a why didn't we think of that?
I know. Well,
that's why I'm here, Steve.
Okay, we'll send you one when we figure out what it is. Right. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a paranoid, like afraid of things breaking. I have a 6-year-old. I have a 3-year-old. I have some of my Star Wars stuff that I'm like, oh, you guys can play with that. Just be careful. Do you have any horror stories of an item that broke? Or something that almost broke and you caught it last second? Like, we all have those fears for these things that we cherish. And how do you conquer that knowing you have 500 million things in your warehouse?
Yeah.
Well, California is earthquake territory, although we haven't had a major one in a long time. Knock on lots of wood. So the big Northridge earthquake in 1989, when I was still living in Los Angeles, in a house on stilts in the Hollywood Hills, east of Hollywood, which really went back and forth quite a bit. Heard breaking glass. The salad dressing and mayonnaise and everything fell out of the refrigerator and bounced on the floor and broke. And I thought, oh my God, the Star Wars collection is going to be toast. So I went down to the 3rd floor when the shaking stopped. This was a 1-story house that I added another floor onto and then another floor. One item, a ceramic Boba Fett, had broken.
Amazing.
And lots of stuff was on the floor, but I was amazed. And it was something that was fairly easily replaceable.
Wow. So the force was strong with your stilts in your house.
The earthquake force, hopefully not too strong.
And I keep asking you, and I keep forgetting, what is that dinosaur thing that leaped off the shelf?
Oh, that was CinemaCast from Kenner at the time.
King Kong?
No, it was a T-Rex.
Okay, it was a dinosaur.
It was a dinosaur.
So it was way back on a shelf. I mean, and it weighed maybe 20 pounds. It was heavy.
And it leapt off the shelf. Not during an earthquake.
Wow.
It just went for it. It was like, I'm out of here.
Just like done.
Well, maybe, Joe Johnston did do Jurassic Park 3, so maybe it was a little bit of revisit for him. Yeah. But that's the other thing, like preservation. So it's probably got to be an exhaustive process. I'm sure there's dehumidifiers involved and a lot of crazy things. How do you preserve a collection that big? And what advice do you have for people who have a collection as to how to preserve your stuff if maybe you're not in the most ideal of conditions, like you were saying, earthquake territory or a humid place in the country or something like that?
I would say the biggest thing you could do is actually keep them away from sunlight. So even if you have blinds on your windows, that's not good enough. It will eventually fade all the color out of whatever it touches. I would, we just got curtains made with a blackout fabric that we're actually going to tack around the entire window. There are no windows in the museum. The doors are opened very rarely. So, and we've got heavy filtering on the air conditioner so dust doesn't get in, although there is dust.
We dust once or twice a year.
Yeah. we have one of our docents, Dwayne Smith, is he likes to glue things. So he's very good with the glue. So become proficient with glues, different types of glues. He just took your Ewok, your rabbit fur Ewok.
Oh, yes, that broke a while ago.
Yeah, he's going to sew them up.
How many of these items do you know, do you memorize? Like, do you have a certain wing of the museum where you could close your eyes and know where everything is, or is it not that way at all?
No, Anne keeps changing things around on me. So wait a second, that was there.
Yeah, I think that happens in my house too, Steve.
Oh,
she does it to test my memory.
You do the same thing to me.
I'm always like, where did I put my shoes? Where are my sneakers? And my son's like, oh, Dad, I put them under your bed. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, nice to know.
Yeah,
right. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So, do you have any advice for people who want to become collectors? Not necessarily like to start a museum or anything, but is it the basis of just do it because you love it first and foremost, instead of like trying to have these large aspirations? Because like you were saying, your thing sort of happened organically. You weren't necessarily starting it to start a business.
It absolutely did happen organically. And I say to people, and I have said to people for decades, when I was doing a column for the Star Wars Insider magazine called Scouting the Galaxy, and I would get letters from a lot of kids and collectors asking serious collector questions, but kids saying, I bought an action figure for $4.95. How much is it worth? My answer would always be, it's worth what somebody is willing to pay you for it, but buy what you love. Have a specific idea in mind. There are people who collect based on character, based on the specific movie, based on a specific vehicle. There are lots of people out there, or a specific kind of item, action figures or clips from newspapers and magazines or books or comics. Now, my fall is based on liking everything. I considered myself a completist. I still do, but by completist, I now redefined it to mean I would like to have everything, but I certainly can't. There's so much out there. Even the companies that make this stuff don't have everything.
Yeah, I would.
What are the types of items that you can't say no to?
Right now, Lego Star Wars, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary. And we just opened a wonderful Lego section that has gotten lots of excitement from our visitors. We opened it about 9 months ago, and lots of Lego pieces that were built by one of our docents, Mark Morita. And they look great, and posters as the whole poster collecting hobby has excited me again. We've got how many flat files, Anne?
A lot.
Yeah.
Let's say we probably have 6,000 posters.
Star Wars posters.
Really, I feel like sometimes I have 6,000. So
I
only have so much wall space in my house.
Flat files, that's the key. And then you could swap them out. You know, you don't have to keep the same one on the wall all the time.
True.
I made a mistake when I was first collecting. I got my posters mounted on dry mounted on foam core, and a couple of framers convinced me at the very beginning, oh, well, that doesn't fit our normal frame, so you can cut the bottom of it. I've learned, I've replaced all of those with mint posters in the file drawers, but I still have those posters hanging on the wall, greeting people in the hallway before we get to the main museum.
What's your favorite Star Wars poster ever? Both of you. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that was a very serious question. That we just
well, because I have one. Favorite? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a triptych. It's the one with the cowboy made out of the computer parts.
Oh, the Russian one.
Yeah.
It's a 3-part, and it says Star Wars: A Space Western.
Oh, I love that.
In Russian.
Yeah. You would not think it was a Star Wars poster because it looks like a cowboy on a horse, but it's a collage all made of like computer parts and weird things.
Holy cow.
I think my favorite is an original Star Wars poster that is also, I believe, George Lucas's favorite, or one of his favorites, and that's called the Circus poster. And it's Luke and Leia swinging on the rope across the chasm, and it was the first poster that was co-illustrated by Drew Struzan, who went on to do amazing Star Wars posters.
Everything, yeah.
And Charlie White III. And they collaborated on it. And the problem was that they didn't realize they needed more space for the credit block at the bottom of the poster. And so George liked the art so much that he said, well, why don't we do something else to it? And so they came up with the idea of actually taking the art that they had done, pasting it on a bigger sheet, and adding some more art and putting the credits at the bottom of that. So it's actually 3 pieces that are glued together. I've seen it in the theater in the bottom of the main house at Skywalker Ranch, and it's an amazing piece. George has it framed, and it's bigger than all of the other original art for the posters.
Wow.
That's really cool.
So do you have any stories of your favorite story of George Lucas going to the museum?
George has visited us at Star Wars celebrations. We have invited George many times to come here, but he's busy building his own billion-dollar museum in Southern California that is not a Star Wars museum. It's a museum of narrative art. He has an amazing collection of art as well as all kinds of posters, non-Star Wars posters, and Norman Rockwell and artists like that whose art tell a story. So I think he's been a little busy.
Yeah,
sure.
Making movies and then building a museum.
Well,
we'd still like you to come if you're listening to the Resistance broadcast, George.
Please, if he's listening, forget it. I'll stop doing the podcast right now if I found it. But
do you guys have any guests that have come through the museum that surprised you? Like anybody that just showed up randomly? They were like, "Oh my gosh, hi! Didn't know you were a fan."
Well, we know people because we get their names in advance, but we have had a lot of the original actors from the original trilogy, like Dave Prowse, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, R2-D2.
Warwick was just here.
Warwick Davis was here with his kids a couple of months ago. Daniel Logan, who played young Boba Fett. Jeremy Bullock, who was the original Boba Fett. So we've had lots of people like that through the museum. It's been great.
That's the part that, like, the preservation of history element of it is what I'm always obsessed with, because we had J.W. Rinsler on the podcast a few times, and how valuable his books were, you know, the making of Star Wars, and how he saved things from dumpsters and made these books out of them. And now, and you too, that's what I'm saying. Like, so now I have these books so that when my kid gets older and years after George Lucas is gone and everyone's gone, he can read the true truth of how this stuff was made based on people who did this work. And you're in that same ilk for collecting. So it's just, it is such an important thing to preserve all this stuff, because once they do take that T-Rex leap off your shelf and fall to the ground, that might be it for some of this stuff. So it is so important to treasure the stuff as more time goes on, because they're not remaking all this stuff. And even if they are, having originals or stuff that have been around since the beginning is so vital, just as much as it is important for new things to come out, for new kids to get involved. But is that a part that keeps you going, is knowing that future generations are going to be able to experience this element of Star Wars, which, if I'm being honest, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like Star Wars really started the movie collectible toy thing.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did.
Does that keep you going?
Yeah, a friend of ours keeps calling Star Wars an art movement. And I really like this concept a lot, because not only, I mean, we do have wonderful pieces of art here, but even action figure sculpting and the design of card backs, writing comic books, drawing comic books, everything that we have in the museum is an art form of some kind. Even doing the electronics on that really cool Japanese C-3PO. I mean, everything requires some form of creativity. And so when we share the collection, I feel like it comes full circle. Like if we get a little kid in here and they're like totally obsessed with R2-D2, they're going to see that in the museum and then maybe go out and learn things.
That is perfect. That is so great. Honestly, I love that, because I'm not pushing my son to get into Star Wars, but he's gotten into it on his own. And we got to go see The Phantom Menace when it came back out in theaters in May, and it was his first time going to the movies. And now he's like into it. I passed him down some of my Power of the Force action figures every week. If he's good in school, I let him pick out another one. And he's like all in on it now. He plays with them and all that stuff. So knowing that one day he could go check out Rancho Obi-Wan and see all this stuff and experience it. You're a time capsule. That's what this is. Your museum is a time capsule, and it's so important. So that, like, for me, that would drive me to want to make sure I preserve that. Do you like obsess over that? Do you lose sleep over that? Or is it just something that you're like, no, it's just, here it is, and hopefully it's going on for a long, long time?
Just because I own 400,000 to 500,000 Star Wars items, you think I'm obsessive?
How presumptuous of me, Steve. I'm sorry.
I don't lose any sleep over it. I love it, and I love the items, and the merchandise is what. You're right. It really kicked off the whole movie merchandising business. And it really helped sell Star Wars, because you could bring home a piece of what made you so excited and inspired you so much. And you could play with it. You could recreate the scenes in the movies or make your own stories up. Right. And that's what was so great about Star Wars and the Star Wars stories that developed out of that.
Yeah, because didn't Boba Fett come out before the Empire Strikes Back? So kids were just like, I don't know what he is, but I'm gonna make up my own story with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's such a part of what has, I think, made Star Wars generational and something that has been passed down. Because, like I said, you get the box of toys. I'm probably not curating as nicely as you guys. I do have some stuff still in packages, but you bring the box down, and my son's eyes like widen so brightly. He's like, I can play with these? And I'm like, yeah, you can, buddy. Yeah, you can. And nice. I think that's such an important thing. So what you all have been doing for 15 years now with the official museum, and what you're going to be doing in the future is so important. So I do want to bring it back around to the fundraiser now that people have gotten to hear more of your stories and stuff. And just urge people, if you're in that area, or if you're able to make the trip next Saturday, October 5th at 6 p.m. at the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, Washington. Tickets still available. But that they can also go to ranchoobiwan.org/fundraiser2024/donate and donate to support your museum, to make sure it keeps thriving, growing, hopefully not growing too much, because it sounds like you guys are packed to the gills there, but and to keep supporting you, and of course going to the website to bid also, as you mentioned, Ann. So
yes, and we thank everybody for their support. It's your museum.
Oh, that's an honor to just be having a chance to speak with both of you. And anything, we're going to do everything we can to make sure everyone has the links, and to do our little part to help support this fundraiser for you all. And it was fun. It was an honor to finally speak with both of you. We've known of you for a very long time, very popular in the Star Wars fan space. And I get jealous when I see other people, whether they're podcasters or stuff, at Rancho Obi-Wan. I'm like, I gotta get out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next step is you guys got to come out here. I know it's a long track from Connecticut.
It is. It's a bit of, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah. Any parting words for our audience about Rancho Obi-Wan, about the fundraiser, before we let you go here?
Just be inspired. Let it inspire you.
There'll be food and drink there, by the way. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Lacey, anything else for Steve and Ann?
No, thank you guys so much and for everything that you do. As a collector myself, it's so inspiring to see. I follow you guys on social media to see what you guys are doing and the stuff that you get to share. And I know oftentimes, every once in a while, stuff will trend online of like crazy, wacky stuff that has been made as merchandise with Star Wars. And I love knowing that you guys have that thing that people are like, do you guys have the C-3PO tape dispenser that everybody always talks about?
Of course.
Of course you do. So it's nice to know that someone is keeping all those things safe, that we can go back and remember throughout time of how people have been celebrating Star Wars. And that's what this is all about, right? That you guys get to have fans enjoy Star Wars the way that you're enjoying it. You're sharing your passion, your love for it. And it's great. I love it.
And sharing is the key word. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Wow.
Awesome.
Well, everybody go check out ranchoobiwan.org. If you can't make it to the live event, be sure to donate, support them. They have a great thing going that is such an important part of Star Wars culture, fan culture, and making sure this is preserved for your generation, but future generations as well. And Steve and Ann, I can't thank you both enough for coming on into the base here at the Resistance broadcast. It means a lot. And we look forward to maybe having you on again one day and hopefully meeting in person and getting to nerd out a bit more.
That would be great.
Love it.
This has been fun.
Thank you both so much. We look forward to hearing all the successes that you have going forward. Wow. So, I mean, I said it when I was talking to them, but I know nothing. That's what that comes down to.
It makes me know nothing. And I'm the person that's collecting, as you know, for the past 7 years, avidly. Been going to flea markets, going Facebook Marketplace, toy shows, and I feel like I am baby collector. Fisher Price, my first collecting.
When I asked them, what's your favorite Star Wars poster? I was like, I have mine. And I was going to say, the Empire Strikes Back poster with Han kissing Leia. And then Anne hits me with this rare Russian cowboy. I was like, I'm on the novice level. I'm playing on the easy mode.
Which, by the way, you were very much like, tell me your favorite poster.
I didn't say it like that.
You were just very quick to ask because I think you get excited. You love posters. Yeah. So as soon as they brought up posters as like Steve said, that's his thing right now, you were like, yes, check. Love posters. So I just sensed that you were very excited to ask them about it. It was just very
well. I always wonder, what does the guy who has everything love the most? And posters are such a big Star Wars thing that I was curious to see if they had any mainstream ones, but the ones they listed, I mean, especially the one in Skywalker Ranch that George.
I was going to say, what about the banner done by Joe Johnston?
The banner made by Joe Johnston. I mean, we could honestly, we got to have them back because we just scratched the surface. We didn't get into Solo. I definitely want to talk to them about Solo merch because that stuff is, how do you even call it? It's almost like cult-like. Like it's like there's these treasures of this movie that didn't do well, and I love that stuff.
That's probably the more valuable stuff, honestly, that didn't catch on.
Yeah, but a great chat, and I do hope everyone gets a chance to at least check out the website if you're not able to get to Seattle. If you are able to get to Seattle, go check it out, take photos, tell them we sent you, wear a TRB shirt if you want, but mostly just have a great time. But if you can't go to ranchoobiwan.org and donate or enter the auctions or whatever you can do, because preserving the history of this franchise, which is about to be 50 years old, is going to become harder and harder as the years go on. So knowing that Rancho Obi-Wan exists and Steve and Ann and the crew are keeping it going and building upon it is really important. And hopefully that's what people took away from that chat. And hopefully also people nerded out, because I did.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite thing about talking with Steve is he wasn't afraid of admitting when he made mistakes in collecting and like things that he learned along the way that comes from experience, like the whole cutting off the bottom of the poster thing, because we've all been there. And it's just nice to hear that, like, oh, I've made mistakes. It's nice to hear I'm not the only one, because sometimes you can be a little tough on yourself as someone in fandom, as a Star Wars collector. You can be like, oh my God, am I doing this right? And he totally sells the point, which is do what you want, collect what you love. That's the point, is to celebrate Star Wars, be creative, have a good time, and connect with these stories in the way that feels true to you.
Yeah, and from the first minute they came on, like, we didn't really talk, you know, before at all, and they felt like neighbors. They felt like people I've known, and they're very down to earth, very easy to get like chat with, and it was like a very easy conversation, and it just flew by. So we got to have him back.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, we hope everyone enjoyed this. Lacey, any final thoughts before we close this one out?
No, just that we need to get out there at some point. Like,
yeah,
it's been on my bucket list, but after speaking with them, like, we need to like go out there and go out to dinner with them or something. I don't know. They were just really cool.
I have to anoint Kylo Hen, apparently.
Apparently. As soon as he laughed, I was like, no, don't laugh at
I wasn't
it.
sure if that was going to get a stone cold or if that was going to get a laugh. And
when they laughed, stand up clap from that.
Whew, that was a close one. But yeah, that's it for us here. We hope you enjoyed this special episode. No standard Resistance broadcast this week. I am heading to Disney World with my family. Lacey's going to get a nice little breather from me. Most importantly,
I was going to say, not really. I'm still putting out 2 episodes, so it's not.
Yeah, but and then no Nerdy and Nice next week, but there is a Nerdy and Nice episode out today. But go check out Rancho Obi-Wan, support what they do over there. And from us here at the Resistance broadcast, we'll see you around, kids.